thank you for the likes, the views, and the comments. Um, and I'm hoping everybody had a great week out of themselves past, and I hope everything is going well. So today's video is just gonna be me reading Reddit stories that are kind of spooky. Maybe depends on what you think is scary. These are true as well, and this was uploaded 13 hours ago. And without further ado, let's get right into the video. So, here it is. The title of the story is My Neighbor is Trying to Ruin My Life. Okay. Maybe they are your soulmate or even a better version of you. That's what my friend Joe said when I told him about my downstairs neighbor for the first time. My neighbor who seemingly liked all the exact same things I did, but who I had never met. Excuse me, better, I laughed. He didn't elaborate, only grinned as a response and then suggested we knock on their door. I met Joe through some other friends a year ago. After we realized that we lived on the same street, we started hanging out more often. I'd moved to a town a couple of years ago, right after college for a marketing job I was lucky to get. Both of our jobs are mostly remote, so now we'd meet for coffee breaks or even work together at my place some days. This made him a witness to all the madness I would be going through, which I was truly grateful for because I'm quite sure that any other outside person would have thought I was going insane. Hell, even for a while, I thought I was going insane. It all started with music. I lived on the 5th floor of an apartment building. The way the building was designed, there were 2 apartments on each floor, and from the outside, each floor looked pretty much the same, except for shoes in the front of the door or individual welcome mats and stuff like that. We didn't have an elevator, so I'd cross all the apartments on my way up and down. I started noticing the apartment right underneath mine when the tenant happened to listen to the same song I had been listening to before and made my way outside. I even ran back upstairs to my apartment because I thought I'd left my speaker on, but I hadn't. It was coming from the place downstairs. Funny coincidence, not anymore. Funny coincidence, not more. The following day, it happened again. This time, it was not a particularly well-known artist, but Shazam exists. Maybe my neighbor and I had similar tastes. However, when this kept happening for days, I started thinking it was a passive-aggressive way to tell me my music was too loud. I started using headphones and there was no more music coming from the neighbor. But that doesn't mean it ended there. It simply switched to movies or series. I would walk by that apartment and hear the same things that I'd been watching earlier that day. Even the same exact episodes of shows, and even though I had really lowered the volume. About a week after it all started, Joe and I were working at my place. That's when I told him about the music and the shows. He suggested we knock on the door to see who this person was. I didn't see neighbors often in the hallway in general, but this particular one was a real mystery. The apartment under mine had nothing in front of it, pretty much like mine. I had a hallway inside my apartment where I left my shoes and other things. They didn't open the door even though we could clearly hear movement inside. Hello, Joe called out, but there was no response. That's when the door of the apartment next to it opened, where an elderly lady lived. I never interacted much with neighbors, but I'd seen her once or twice before. Excuse me, I said. Do you know who lives here? I pointed to the other door. She looked at me for a while and then shrugged. recently. Why? Oh, I think my package was accidentally delivered to her. I lied. Maybe try again. She doesn't seem to leave her home very often. Poor thing. The lady smiled and started walking down the stairs. We didn't try again later. The girl seemed to be an introvert, and I didn't want to bug her. So she liked the same stuff as me or copying me. It was funny. Like she was following my recommendations. However, every day it seemed to grow slightly stranger. It went from media to food. I started smelling the same things I was cooking coming from her apartment. I know that scents can travel, but it was so strong right in front of her door. There was no way it was coming from my place. That was fine. Even though I had no idea when or how she got the groceries, I was home most of the days, and I started peeking out of my apartment every time I heard a door close shut or a building was pretty poorly soundproofed. But every time it was only the old lady who might have started thinking that I was stalking her. The coincidence stopped being funny when one day I walked by and smelled my perfume. It was the one that my mother had gifted me. She got it from a place where you can mix together your own choice of scents. Not only was it unique, but I hadn't used it in months. There was no way she could have copied that. I told some of my other friends it as well, and everyone agreed it was creepy. The woman didn't just have the same taste as me. She was stalking me. I decided that I didn't want to hang around home all day anymore, right above her, where she could listen to everything I did. I realized that if she heard my shows on such a low volume, she probably also heard phone calls I made or conversations I had with friends who came over. So I started going back to the office more often just to get away during the day. I was sick. I was sick of feeling observed. For a few days that was fine. I hardly noticed anything from the mystery neighbor anymore. That is until I came home from work one day. My key wouldn't fit inside my door. I called the landlord. Luckily, he did not live far away and came over. His face was all puffy and red from walking the stairs, and wasn't happy that he had to come. So, what seems to be the problem? He grunted, slightly out of breath. Even the old lady mastered the stairs better than him. Like I said, my key doesn't fit the lock. I said it was demonstrated. I said and demonstrated it. He quickly grabbed the key from my hand. Let me see. Keys don't just stop working. You must have broken a piece or something. Well, is there a way to fix this? He sighed and inspected the key further. Then he looked at me and started squinting his eye. Wait a second. Are you sure you're on the right floor? I laughed. Yes, I'm pretty sure I know where I live. He rolled his eyes and started walking off with my key in hand down the stairs. I followed him, but stopped on the last step when I just saw that he had just opened the door to the apartment one floor below mine. That's impossible, I whispered. Look, love, I know that these floors all look similar, but you should be able to count, yes. I didn't respond, still frozen on that step. Next time, check where you are before you call. Got it? He shook his head and started walking away, leaving my key inside the open door. He was already a floor down when I heard him whisper, fucking new tenants. I was sure I'd walked to the right floor, but I was tired and maybe I kept walking without thinking. Embarrassed, I finally started moving and went inside the apartment. However, when I turned the lights on, I knew that I hadn't made a mistake. This was not my home. Somebody tried to make it look like it was. When you step inside my real apartment, you get through a small hallway. All I have in it are a chair and a little closet for shoes and coats. This place had that too, with a closet and chair were made out of cardboard. It felt like I was going through an out-of-body experience. I couldn't stop myself. I stepped further inside into what would be the bedroom. Just like the hallway, everything in there were copies of my own furniture made out of cardboard. In my real apartment, I used to have a bunch of pictures on the walls of friends and family members. Here I saw exact copies drawn by hand, all leaving out the faces of people. What the hell? My stomach started turning. I stumbled back to the hallway, out the door, and toward the stairs. That's when I suddenly heard something coming from the upper floor, my floor. It sounded like a jingle, something I hadn't heard before. My heart was racing. I looked up out of reflex just for a second, and that's when I caught a glimpse of her. She had her arms over the railing, but her face was hidden. Then, only for a moment, she looked up and hid again. It was uncanny. This woman had my hair and was dressed in my clothes. Even her face resembled mine. It was slightly off, as if she tried to copy it, but didn't get it quite right. I opened my mouth, but couldn't speak. A surge of anger filled me. I wanted to jump there, grab her by her hair, and push her down the stairs. I can't even explain where that came from. I usually wasn't exactly hostile. But something was stopping my body from moving. I kept standing there until she looked up again. Our eyes met, and the anger turned into fear. It's difficult to describe the feeling I had when she looked at me. Everything inside of me just turned dark because I became nauseous and dizzy. She opened her mouth, but just like mine, no words came out. Finally, she moved from the railing, and seconds later, I heard her door shut. My door. I should have called the police or my landlord, but I didn't. When my body would finally move again, I ran down the stairs through the door and didn't stop until I was in front of Joe's house. We were sitting on his sofa. My body was still shaking. The cup of tea Joe had made me had already turned cold. I told him what I saw. I told him everything. She's going insane. I need to call for help. That's what he must be thinking, I thought, but he didn't say anything like that. Instead, he patiently listened when I was done. We both stayed silent for a while. Finally, Joe asked a question. You're not gonna tell anyone, right, Maxine? I wrapped my arms around my legs. This place was freezing. I don't know how, I whispered. Because they wouldn't believe you. You believe me, right? I asked carefully. Joe smiled. He did believe me. I could feel that. But that wasn't all. He was eerily calm, as if none of the things I told him were odd at all. We could call the police, he offered, but it didn't feel sincere. Then he smiled again. But we're not, because you saw her and you felt it. You felt that she wasn't right, that she wasn't quite done yet, but pretty close to human, yeah. I looked at the guy who had been one of my best friends this past years. The person I had to run to after I didn't know where else to go. I swallowed. Don't worry, Joe continued. Some need time to adjust. It took me a little bit, but now I feel absolutely perfectly real. My breathing became slower, and his eyes were fixated on mine. Dun dun dun. The strange sound pulled me away from the strands. I'd fallen into the same sound I had heard coming from my doppelganger. This time it's coming from Joe's phone. He got up to pick it up, and I used that moment to jump up and run toward the door. He grabbed my arm just before I could and said one more thing. She is the better version of you. Then he let me go. He didn't follow. I didn't tell anybody what happened. Joe didn't say that it was specifically, but I knew what he had meant. Telling anyone wouldn't do any good. It might only harm more people. I moved back to my parents in the beginning. They asked a lot of questions, but they've given up now. All I know is that something traumatic must have happened to me. Slowly I'm coming back to my senses. I know that I didn't imagine any of that, but there are still so many questions that I can't answer. Like, why would they want my life? What are they going to do with it? I also keep wondering if there's a real Joe still walking around somewhere, or if you got rid of him. The other thing is that I keep hearing that jingle. The other day I swore I heard it in the supermarket. Later a kid played it from their phone, and then I heard it on the television. This isn't about me, and I can't stop wondering who else around me has been replaced. Yo, skinwalkers, I don't know if you guys heard about that, but those are the most creepiest things in the world. I think it's like if you hear somebody in the woods crying for help, you're not supposed to go, because it's like they take you, like, and they literally become you or something like that. And the scary part is, like, I've heard it once. Like, I've actually heard like somebody just yelling. Like, I thought it was coyotes, because like where I'm at, it's like you can hear coyotes from time to time. But it was like it's a different like voice than the coyote would give out, because I heard it. And like anytime you just look into like the dark streets and just into like abyss, really, all you just see is like darkness, which is super spooky. And to like wonder like what's out there. Like a part of you wants to go, and then the other part of you is like, I'm not gonna die young, whatever. Let me know if you had any experience with skinwalkers in your life. So this one is even more scarier, the story. I'm trapped in a cage waiting for my turn to die. They invaded our home and abducted me. It was a matter of seconds. I didn't even have a chance to put up a fight. There are 4 of us left, huddled in this prison, waiting for our turns to die. Every hour they take one of us from the cage to torture and kill. They bring out the carcasses and parade them around, taunting us for fun, for revenge. None of us figured out why. In what I know are my last moments of life, all I can do is think about my family and friends, who I know will suffer the same fate soon enough if they haven't already. I look up. There are more prisoners shoved in, equally as distressed as the rest of us. They topple on top of me, pushing me to the corner of their cage. Let me know what's in your guys' mind right now as I describe this story. One of the captors peers in, carefully examining a lot of us. He reaches in forcefully and grabs me. His grip is strong and unforgiving. I struggle but quickly give up. I am bound too tight to do anything. He brings me to the back, lays me down. His eyes are cold as he grabs a knife and carefully sharpens it. I look around. The 6 others that entered the cage with me are sprawled across the room, motionless. A loud crunch echoes as I am impaled in the back with his blade, but not before I hear the same words I've heard countless of times since I got here. Welcome to Red Lobster. That was actually a really funny one. The bringing up of it was actually really good. That was actually a really nice story, and I hope you can get too scared from that one. I thought that one, like the build-up of it, was better than the first story. But anyways, thank you for viewing. Thank you for subscribing, leaving a comment, and liking. I appreciate each and every one of you guys, and I will continue to make ASMR because I love doing this. I've always loved ASMR. If you have any other questions or any other videos you want me to make, please leave a comment and let me know, and I will try my best to do just that. Thank you so much.